All right, let's talk China. Not the headlines, not the stuff you think you know. We're diving into the deep end, the parts that make you go, wait, what? So picture this. You want the latest iPhone, maybe those new Nikes, or even a Chanel bag. Now imagine getting it for like 10% of the price. $100 for a phone that looks and feels real. $20 for a designer bag? Welcome to China. Specifically cities like Shenzhen and Yiwu, the undisputed heavyweight champs of counterfeit goods. Yiwu is literally called the world's largest fake goods supermarket. We're not just talking knockoff t-shirts here. They're cranking out grade A fakes, stuff so meticulously copied that even the pros have to squint to spot the difference. Think your sneakerhead buddy can tell? Maybe not. But here's where it gets truly wild. They don't stop at your Yeezys or that Gucci belt. China's gone full hold my beer and started replicating entire architectural landmarks. Yeah, you heard that. They've built their own Eiffel Tower, got a Statue of Liberty chilling somewhere. Fancy a stroll through Venice without the flight? They've got a copy. London Bridge? Check. There's even a full-blown replica of an Austrian village, Hallstatt, creating these surreal copycat European towns right there in China. And people, especially domestic tourists, eat it up. Apple, Adidas, Gucci, they're all getting the twin treatment. You'll see stores selling My One phones or Adidas sneakers. Dolce & Banana, anyone? At a glance, it's the real deal. From a pair of kicks to a mini Europe, if there's an original, China's proven they can make a copy that sometimes, get this, sells even better. What a world, huh? Now let's talk money, or rather the lack of it. If you pull out a wad of cash in China, especially in the big cities, you might get looks like you just rolled out of a time machine. China is spearheading the charge to eradicate cash. From Shanghai skyscrapers to villages you've never heard of, almost everyone is living life through a QR code. Supermarkets, taxis, street food carts, every single transaction is a quick scan. And I mean everyone. Street vendors, farmers selling their crops, and yes, even beggars. They'll have a QR code printed on a piece of cardboard, ready for you to zap over a digital donation. For us Americans, it feels like stepping into a sci-fi flick, maybe something straight out of a more organized cyberpunk setting. It's baffling and kind of incredible all at once. And if you thought that was next level, hold on. Smile to pay. Yeah, facial recognition payment. It's already widespread in restaurants, malls, even at vending machines. You just stand there, look at the camera, give it a smile, and boom, payment deducted. No cash, no phone, just your face. The downside? If you're a tourist, good luck with your international credit cards. Cash is becoming obsolete, and those domestic payment apps like WeChat Pay or Alipay usually need a Chinese bank account. So if you're planning a trip, learning Alipay is probably as crucial as knowing how to say hello. All right, brace yourselves, because this next one is a doozy. In China, some pretty unique educational opportunities have popped up. We're talking about intensive training courses on how to win over married men. No, I'm not kidding. These are discrete classes with tuition fees hitting around $4,000 specializing in teaching women how to approach, seduce, and ultimately convince a guy to leave his wife. The instructors, often they're experienced third parties themselves, self-proclaimed experts in the art of, let's call it, romantic acquisition. They teach everything from communication tactics to psychological manipulation to reportedly practical exercises. But here's the kicker, the other side of this bizarre coin. Another profession is apparently booming. Experts who advise these third parties to, well, back off. These are lawyers and psychologists who help the so-called homewreckers understand the legal fallout, the social pressure, and the heartache involved. And this service, not cheap. A consultation package can run up to 100,000 Chinese yuan. That's roughly $14,000. So while one side is teaching how to crash a marriage, the other is helping them ghost with a shred of dignity. It's a whole marketplace. Think about the US. We've got Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific time. Makes sense, right? Big country, multiple time zones. Now China is massive, about 3.7 million square miles, only a bit smaller than the US. It naturally spans 5 time zones. 5. That's a rarity globally. But here's the mind bender. The entire country officially runs on one time zone, Beijing time. UTC plus 8. Imagine that. This leads to some seriously strange situations. Out in the far western regions like Xinjiang, the sun might not even bother to show up until after 10 a.m. Beijing time. So while folks in Xinjiang are just pouring their coffee, people in Shanghai, thousands of miles east, might have already wrapped up their lunch. It's like the whole country is forced into this one temporal reality, regardless of what the sun is doing. This prime location, bordering as many as 14 countries, from Russia and India to North Korea and Vietnam, second only to Russia in its number of neighbors, also makes China a massive strategic hub for global trade and investment. But that one time zone, that's a daily dose of surreal.
We all use paper every day, right? Maybe you're jotting notes or, well, using toilet paper. Guess who you can thank for that? China. Way back in 105 AD, an official named Kai Lun is credited with inventing paper by pulping tree bark, old rags, and fishing nets. This simple method totally revolutionized information recording, replacing those clunky bamboo slips and pricey silk. Suddenly you had a material that was lighter, cheaper, and way easier to make. And get this, Europe didn't get its hands on paper-making techniques until the 12th century. That's over a millennium later. 1,000 years. But the surprises don't stop there. Gunpowder? That was a Chinese oopsie. Taoist alchemists in the Tang dynasty weren't trying to make weapons. They were chasing an elixir of immortality. Around the 9th century, they were heating up sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter, and instead of eternal life, they got a powder that burned like crazy, the first gunpowder. Initially, it was for fireworks, making festivals pop. Who knew it would change warfare forever? Then there's the compass. Before GPS, before even decent maps for most, Chinese folks in the 11th century figured out that a lodestone, shaped like a spoon and placed on a bronze plate, would always point south. This little gadget quickly became essential for navigating at sea. Think about it. Without the compass, would Columbus and even tried to cross the Atlantic? The whole age of discovery might have been seriously delayed. And printing? China was on it. First woodblock printing in the 7th century. By the 11th century, a guy named Bishang invented movable type using baked clay. While Europe was still handwriting every single book, China was turning out thousands of copies a day. If you're finding this dive into the unexpected as wild as I am, and you want to keep uncovering these kinds of hidden truths from around the globe, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We drop knowledge bombs like this all the time. You don't want to be the last to know. Ever thought about living underground? Not in a basement. I mean your whole village for like 4,000 years. Head over to China's Henan province, to a place called Sanmenxia. There, entire communities have thrived in these unique pit dwellings called yaodongs. From the surface, you'd barely see a thing. No houses, hardly anyone around, but venture down about 20 or 23 feet and a whole different world opens up. People living, cooking, studying, all within the earth. It's like something out of a fantasy novel, but it's been their reality for millennia. The design is genius. Each home is typically a square, maybe 30 to 40 feet on each side. The main entrance is a sloping tunnel leading to a big central courtyard with rooms branching off. And they even figured out drainage systems to keep rainwater and floods out. Building one of these yaodongs takes 2 or 3 years of constant work. Talk about dedication. And the best part? It's eco-friendly and cheap. Being underground, the temperature stays pretty stable. Warm in winter, cool in summer, no need for AC or heating. That's zero-carbon living thousands of years before it was a hashtag. And when it comes to unique traditions, China's got layers. Take some historical Tibetan minority customs, for example. There was a practice known as trial sleep before marriage. A bride-to-be wouldn't just pick a husband based on a dating app profile or a couple of dates. Nope. She would reportedly have relations with multiple men in her village, sometimes up to 20. After each encounter, she'd keep a token. The man who ultimately proved most satisfactory, in terms of health, perceived fertility, compatibility, you name it, would be chosen. Now, this custom is believed to be long gone or massively diminished today, but it was a real form of premarital assessment in some communities. Then you've got the Moso ethnic group in southwestern China. Moso women don't really marry in the way we think of it. No big legal ties, no elaborate ceremonies. Instead, they freely choose their partners, and the men visit them at night, leaving quietly by morning. It's often called a walking marriage. Kids take the mother's surname and are raised in her family, with the father sometimes just considered a night guest. It's a system that's worked for them for centuries. Okay, so you're in China, you pull out your phone to check Instagram, maybe watch some YouTube or fire off a tweet, and nothing. Don't blame your phone. The reality is China operates a completely separate internet ecosystem. Most of the big international platforms we use daily, Google, Facebook, Instagram, X, you name it, they're all shut out by this colossal internet control system known as the Great Firewall, or sometimes the Digital Great Wall. This isn't just some simple filter. It's a super complex censorship system the Chinese government uses to control information, protect domestic data, and maintain what they call digital sovereignty. To get around it, you'll need a VPN, a tool most international visitors become very familiar with. So, what do over 1 billion people use instead? Meet WeChat. It's not just an app, it's the app. It's your messenger, social network, e-wallet, doctor's appointment booker, shopping mall, tax office, everything. They say losing your wallet in China is no big deal, but losing WeChat, that's like losing your entire life. Then there's Weibo, kind of like a mashup of X and Instagram, where celebrities, influencers, government agencies, and everyone else hangs out. And for search, Baidu is king, the Google replacement that also does maps, cloud services, AI, even self-driving car tech. It's a whole different digital world, self-contained and massive. Imagine trying to navigate your day if suddenly all your go-to apps just didn't exist, replaced by entirely different ones. So the next time you hear something about China, remember, it's not just one story. It's this incredibly complex, sometimes baffling, and often surprisingly innovative place. A giant nation operating on its own distinct set of rules, both ancient and hyper-modern. It's a place where the past isn't just history, it's living right alongside a future that often feels like it's arrived years ahead of schedule. What's the one thing about China from all this that just completely blew your mind? Drop it in the comments below. I read them all. And if you want to see what other giants are hiding, check out our last video right here. You won't regret it.